Well, the family of the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi has confirmed daily prayer services at the Buthelezi homestead in Mahlabathini in northern KwaZulu-Natal. Buthelezi died on Saturday at his home. He was 95. In a statement, the provincial government has confirmed that he will be laid to rest on Friday. Let us now bring in our reporter, SIMPHIWE MAKHANYA, who is monitoring the Buthelezi homestead as tributes continue to pour in for Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. SIMPHIWE, a good morning to you. I think talk to us about just what we're seeing and some of the activity that you're seeing there at the Buthelezi homestead this morning.
Indeed, Naledi, those tributes continue to pour in here at the residence of the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi in Ulundi. I mean, a short while ago, we saw what some you would call maybe a brief gathering of residents from around this area here. They are inside the premises. There was a little bit of singing. I suppose it's one of the daily services that have been planned ahead of the memorial service, which is expected to take place on Wednesday, and then on Friday we know, of course, that it's going to be that funeral, which is also going to be taking place here in Ulundi. But in terms of what we can expect today, Naledi, I'm going to be speaking now to my colleague Ayanda Mhlongo, who's going to unpack the proceedings for the day ahead. And thank you so much, as always, for your time. Yesterday, the announcement was made that the funeral is on Friday and the memorial service on Wednesday. But today, what can we expect?
Yes, indeed, Simpiwe. That announcement coming from the office of the Premier, but of course we are still waiting for further details around the funeral arrangement. Particularly regarding the category of or the type of funeral that Nkosi Mangosuthu Buthelezi will be accorded. Those details are still outstanding. We do understand that there is going to be a media briefing that will be led by the IFP today. So we hope that they will be able then to furnish more details in terms of what is going to happen for the rest of the week, but particularly when it comes to the funeral. As you've said, the funeral is going to be here in Ulundi at the Prince Mangosuthu Stadium on Friday. Yesterday also stated in the statement that was issued by the Premier is that every evening, apart from the mourners that we continue to see, and I guess today more and more people will also be coming through to meet with the family in person to pay their condolences. There is now a 5 p.m. service that is being held here at the family residence every evening, and this is to accommodate, of course, the thousands of people that are expected to come through during the course of this week. Today we know that the members or the senior members of the AmaZulu royal family will be coming through to also meet and pay their respects and condolences to the family. So we'll have to wait and see, of course, who will be part of that delegation. We do know that a lot of people will probably be wanting to ask, where is King Misuzulu KwaZulu-Natal? And in accordance with AmaZulu cultures, we know that the king will not be coming. Where there is a funeral, where there has been a death, the king does not attend. So instead, His Majesty King Mrs. KwaZulu-Natal will be sending a delegation of the senior members of the royal family to come today to meet with the family.
Yesterday, of course, we got that statement from the Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma Foundation, which essentially acknowledges the role that Prince Buthelezi played in the AmaZulu royal family, and also him being the leader of the IFP for a very long time. I mean, what did you take away from that particular statement, and also what have some of the leaders that have been coming here saying about his legacy?
Just speaking about former President Jacob Zuma and the statement that was issued yesterday, interestingly, as SIMPHIWE, in 2017-2018, when former President Zuma left office after the 2017 ANC conference, which elected the now President Cyril Ramaphosa, we had a sit-down interview with the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi about the relationship that he had with the former president over the years. Both leaders coming from KwaZulu-Natal. I mean, my expectation when we met, when we did the interview, was that he was going to speak about the years of the two leaders having worked together and the relationship that they had. But interestingly, he said, despite what people might have thought, they'd only met twice. And he relayed how they had met early on in the early 1990s, after the ANC government when the ANC government took over in the country, that was the one time they met at the Union buildings. You remember that the now late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi was asked to act as the president of the country. So it was during that time that they met at the Union buildings, and then on another occasion they met years later. So it was interesting that despite these two leaders and the two parties having working in the province of KwaZulu, nationally, in fact, and of course them both being from the province of KwaZulu-Natal, one would have expected that they would have had much more engagements than just two meetings. But over the last years, we've seen the two leaders come together. We saw in private events that the two leaders attended, that they came together, and so they began to forge, I guess, a stronger relationship in the later years. So it did not come as a surprise, of course, that statement coming through from President Jacob Zuma. Interestingly, we don't know at this point whether or not the former president will also be amongst the leaders that will be coming through to meet with the family. That we have not yet heard any update through the Jacob Zuma Foundation. But that was just an interesting point that was raised by Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Of course, we've had other leaders that have come through. Yesterday, there was a delegation from the African National Congress in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. The senior leader there being the former Treasurer General of the ANC, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, who of course has worked very, very closely for many decades with the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, and he taking you through the relationship that they've had with the two parties. But also interestingly, and the discussions that have been coming out here, SIMPHIWE, is about the reconciliation between the two parties. And I think we've been hearing this. We heard it from the president of the IFP, Velenkosini Hlabisa, when he made his first statement after the announcement of Prince Buthelezi's passing, that in his honor, they are going to continue as leaders on with the reconciliation talks. It was something that was close and important to Buthelezi. And so as leaders, it's incumbent upon them to ensure that they finalize those discussions. Of course, those talks, as we understood, were being held at the highest level with the president of the ANC and other very senior leaders of the ANC, as well as with the IFP. And he also reiterated, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, that they certainly are going to continue to work together between the two parties. So and I mean, the reflections from other parties, that it's a huge loss. But I think also importantly, SIMPHIWE, while the focus is going to be on the political leaders, let's not forget the ordinary community members that are coming out from around Ulundi, and people are now boarding buses, boarding taxis, coming through to pay their respects. And I think those are the people that Prince Mangosuthu held close to his heart. I mean, we've just been seeing how they've been accommodated by the family, and they've made it a point to say that the ordinary community members must be given the opportunity to meet with the family, and so that we're going to see a lot of ordinary people come through, and we've been hearing from them, especially those that are living nearby here, how this is a huge loss for them. They were still hoping that he was going to continue in his plans to develop this area of around Kwapindangena, the area of Mahlabathini, extended to Ulundi, and of course other parts of the province of KwaZulu-Natal. So certainly this has been a huge loss for the community members, and you can just see if you're driving around Ulundi, people will show you that we have these buildings, we have these houses, we have these structures now, and that was all through the efforts and the work of the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. So as you said, SIMPHIWE, we will today, of course, throughout the course of the day, be seeing more people who will be coming through. Also will be the council, the Zululand District Municipality, all their councillors. They are also going to be coming through to meet with the family and pay their condolences in person.
Speaking of his legacy, Ayanda, you and I have had an opportunity to speak with Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi on a number of occasions, I mean, during the interviews that we've held with him. And one thing that perhaps people underestimate is his sense of humor, you know, that keeps on coming. People like Prince Ntuthuko was talking about it yesterday. Just from your observation, what kind of a person did you find him to be?
Oh, he was absolutely hilarious. I mean, during the press briefing, South Africans would know, the jokes that he would pull. He was always very sharp as well. I mean, I know at some points in the now new era of social media and technology, and he would make remarks to say, "I'm not as old as you think. I am keeping up with the times." So he was, and I think that is also what has been keeping, particularly the family and the leaders of the IFP that worked very closely with him, that in a time that has been so difficult for them to look back and reflect on his life and to remember the humor. I mean, we've been seeing them as they've been standing around in groups, and when you see them laugh, when you speak to them, you know that they're cracking a joke and they're remembering the jokes that he had. So certainly, I mean, it was never a dull moment when you were around Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. You would always leave, whether you'd start the interview laughing or you'd leave that interview laughing. But you're certainly a very hilarious character. So we had some good moments, with him. And as you said, this is what the family is holding on to.
One of the things that he actually said during our last interaction with him in Durban was when I asked him that, Shenge, you are so old now, God has kept you for so long. And he said, Mr. Makhanya, I think I hope God is not keeping me for so long just to punish me.
He absolutely did say, I mean, he would say that a human being, I remember he said once that a human being is given 70 years on life and he's just living a bonanza. He said it was just a bonus. So he was given 25 years, a bonus of 25 years, and something that he would always say. So certainly, I think as much as I was saying that people are quite upset by his passing, but it's one of the things that, particularly for the family, is keeping them going, to look back on the type of man. That he was. I mean, and also let's not forget, SIMPHIWE, that while we are laughing, in some areas, community members and some people might feel differently, given the history of this province and parts of South Africa as well, and the role that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi played then, leading the IFP, and we know the past of the province and the violence that took place in certain parts of the province. And so it's important that we also reflect that we know that there are some areas in the province where people might not be feeling, the same emotion, to others. He was a giant, as they say, and a controversial figure at times. So we will. It also does allow that opportunity for us to be able to give those people a voice and for them to reflect. And I mean, some of the leaders that have been coming through had many. Did not see eye to eye with Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, but they've said, let's put aside our differences just to come and pay our respects, but without forgetting the history that took place in the province.
Indeed, my colleague there, Ayanda Mhlongo, giving us a sense of the journey that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi has traveled. I mean, in his life, I remember a memorial lecture that was held recently, which was delivered, by the former Nigerian President Obasanjo, where he described him as a man who has lived many, many, many lives. I'm going to step out of the shot and allow our viewers to see what is currently happening. You see some senior members of this particular community have already started arriving at the home of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. A short while ago, we also saw what one may call a brief service which was conducted inside the premises of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi's home. That's been the situation here on the ground. Naledi will continue, of course, to monitor the developments here as we anticipate, what is going to be said by the people who are coming here, as well as by the presidency with regards to what sort of funeral can we expect for the former, IFP founder and President Emeritus Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Naledi.
Yeah.